Now, the decline in newspaper sales has blighted the industry for a number of years, and many papers were already struggling to cope with a fall in readership and advertising revenue before the pandemic. So some might question the wisdom of launching a new paper. Given the challenges facing the industry, well, this weekend, there is going to be a new Sunday paper as far as Northern Ireland's concerned.
Yeah, the Sunday Independent is launching a Northern Ireland edition. First copy on sale this weekend. Already two well-established Sunday papers here, of course. So what's behind the decision to launch another into what might say is a crowded market?
Yeah, well, let's discuss all of that. We're joined by Sam McBride. He's the Northern Ireland editor of the Sunday Independent and the Belfast Telegraph, double jobbing as always, which is also owned by Media House. Morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, this idea of launching this paper, where has this come from? Because is there really a market for it, given how much people are reading online, seeing on a daily basis on social media? Is there a place for another paper?
Well, if I was on your side of the desk, I'd be asking a skeptical question like that as well. I think that's a perfectly reasonable approach to take. We will ultimately find out pretty soon. But I think that there was a very clear change of focus once Media House, which is a big Belgian media company. I'd never heard of them. Probably most people in Northern Ireland had never heard of them. But they bought the Independent, they bought the Belfast Telegraph, they bought several papers in Ireland several years ago, and they're really steeped in newspaper ink. These are newspaper people. They believe in newspapers. They love newspapers, but they also know that the world is changing, and so they've revolutionized the digital side of things. That's part of the reason why I think this is possible, because that has shown newspapers, I know coming from my former job at the Belfast newsletter, that it was very similar there. There was a transformation in how people consume news during the pandemic. Suddenly, I think some people realized if we don't pay for this online, we're going to lose it, and they did. And then they liked the convenience of it. So that suddenly gives a different model for this. But I think that in Northern Ireland, there is a clear gap in the market on a Sunday. So during the week, you've got the Irish News, Belfast Telegraph newsletter, three very sober, restrained, broadsheet-minded newspapers, regional newspapers. And on a Sunday, you've got two tabloid newspapers. And it used to be that you did have, for instance, the Sunday Times with the late, great Liam Clark, Vincent Kearney, others had a very significant presence in Belfast. That's not the case anymore. So
They still do an Irish edition, though. And you look at some of the other papers, the Mirror, for example, there are local journalists who are pushing and getting material into those papers.
Absolutely, and I'm not in any way meaning to criticise or denigrate what my colleagues there are doing, but I think in the broadsheet market, this is a gap. The other element of this, which I think is really interesting in the context of where we are, is that this is a paper which is based in Dublin. It is a paper which is going to be giving the best, basically, of its Dublin coverage with this new Northern Ireland coverage. It's going to be a blend of those two things. So for people who are interested in what's going on in Northern Ireland, serious, reflective journalism at the weekend when we've all got a bit of time to sit down and leaf through a newspaper or look at it on a app or whatever it might be, this is going to give that, but also for people who are interested in what's going on in the rest of the island.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, because it makes me wonder what the editorial agenda is going to be, because as well as I do, that papers have that freedom to have an editorial agenda. You work for the Belfast Telegraph, which has a pretty unionist agenda. It tends to be UK facing. You're also going to be writing for the Sunday Independent, which obviously is looking at the Republic first and foremost. And how do you balance that? What is going to be the editorial agenda of this paper? Is it going to be light unionist, partitionist, some might call it, or will it be more nationalist?
I suppose I should probably preface this by saying that I've been something of an errant schoolboy in my career in terms of following the various agendas of any paper that I've written for. I mean, I think what I've certainly been told is that I'm getting lots of freedom here. I can write about what I want, basically. I've got a free role. It's not just about politics. My colleagues are like that. You'll be seeing in the columnists a real range of opinion there. And so there is no agenda here. As my editor at the Sunday Independent in Dublin, Alan English, a very distinguished journalist, somebody who was sued by Lance Armstrong for exposing his cheating, etc. He has said there's no agenda here beyond quality journalism. He's an old school journalist. That's what he wants.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that there are lots of conversations taking place. We have elections here. We have a really, really, contentious issues coming before the Irish Parliament as well, in which Sinn Féin are involved. You have an election coming here. There's also the conversation about a potential border poll at some stage. Those are all issues that papers tend to get involved in. Actually, they tend to have a voice on. You're not going to be able to ignore that.
We're not trying to ignore that, but I don't think that we necessarily need to position ourselves as the newspaper where everything is channeled in a certain direction. We do not need to be the Daily Mail or the Guardian or the Daily Mirror, papers which have a very clear and sometimes quite a rigid focus in terms of where their editorial coverage goes. This is a paper for debate. It's a paper for reflective journalism, serious journalism, people who are questioning what's going on. What side they come from isn't important. It's if it's serious, if it's interesting,
It
if they've
plays
got
into a
something to
lot of
say.
those issues, though. It does play into a lot of those issues, and it kind of focuses where, and also, I imagine that as far as you're concerned, if you are writing pieces for the Belfast Telegraph and you're writing pieces for the Sunday Independent, as it's going to be, potentially they could be two very, very different focuses.
Well, you'll be able to judge that for yourself based on what I'm trying to finish, if I can get it done when I get back from here, for Saturday's Belfast Telegraph and what's in the Sunday Independent on that Sunday. But really, no, I don't see it that way at all. There are two elements to this. One is about taking some of what's in the Southern, the Dublin-based edition of the Sunday Independent, bringing that here, giving people here a better understanding of what's going on in the rest of the island. But it's a two-way process. It's about my copy and my colleagues' copy going into the Southern edition and trying to explain to them what's going on in Northern Ireland. Sometimes there's a poor understanding on both sides of the border.
But even that's intriguing the way you say that, because it's not like the Irish Times and the Irish Independent aren't available here. You almost make it sound like actually this is aimed at unionists who want to find out a bit more about the Republic. Because frankly, if you want to find out about the Republic and what's going on there, I mean, there's plenty there. You can listen to RTE. You can take a look at what's in the papers. I mean, this feels like actually it's aimed a little bit at unionists, light.
Well, it's not aimed at any particular side of the Northern Ireland divide. It's aimed at everybody, genuinely, and there has been no spin about that. It's been clear in the meetings I've been in with my colleagues, as I'm saying here. But I think that there is a blending here. So yes, you can get a paper that's focused in Dublin. Yes, you can get a great paper like the Times, the Guardian, whatever it might be, that's focused in London. There's nothing right now, we think, on a Sunday of a broadsheet mentality that's focused on both.
Really good to talk to you. We look forward to having a read out of it. That's Sam McBride, and that Northern Ireland edition of the Sunday Independent is launched on Sunday.